to catch up with Alex Zarou Levine of Alex Orange Drink over Zoom. Alex Orange Drink is a solo project. Alex also plays with the band the So So Glos. So he talks about where he grew up and how he got into music. So So Glos is himself and two of his brothers, his stepbrother and his brother are in the band as well. It's kind of a family affair. Even the new record that he put out as a solo project, Alex Orange Drink, has a real family-oriented vibe to it. So he talks us through starting the band and the success of So So Glos, playing on David Letterman, how huge that was. He gets into this very rare genetic disorder that he was born with and how that affected him. Having a very limited diet and how that was touring all those years as So So Glos. And that really plays into the new record. He actually has 2 songs directly related to the disorder that he was born with. So he talks a bit about that, where he was when the pandemic hit and how that kind of fueled what became this new record, Everything Is Broken, Maybe That's Okay. So make sure to check out the new record from Alex Orange Drink and even new music from So So Glos. So that's exciting as well. And do us a favor and check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page. We got a lot of video interviews up there, tons of artists, different playlists of artists from every genre. So a lot to see there. It'd be rad if you subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That's at Bringing Back Pod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're bringing it backwards with Alex Orange Drink. My name's Adam, and this podcast is all about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about your new project as well.
Great.
Do you mind? I don't know if you mind even going into So So Glos at all.
I can talk about anything. Yeah.
Cool. I know it's a big part of your journey, so I didn't want to cut it out. But cool, man. Oh well. First off, tell me about you're born and raised in Brooklyn.
Yeah. We're born and raised originally in the Bay Ridge neighborhood of Brooklyn, which is, have you seen the movie Saturday Night Fever? Kind of like that a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Very, very suburban Brooklyn upbringing for the first maybe 10 years, formative years. And then our parents got divorced and remarried and all this stuff. And we moved kind of all over the city and out of the city. It was just a lot of different moves. So like maybe 20 different moves, something like that. But
oh my goodness.
All within the same radius of New York and,
So you didn't have to move, were you moving schools and everything or no?
No. Just a few schools.
Okay. So not horrible.
No, yeah.
Okay. I mean, but still, I'm sure it still was hard moving that much, but.
It definitely prepared me and my brothers for a life of transition and, touring.
Okay.
Which is constant change, which is good.
I can imagine. Well, how did you get into music? I know the band or So So Glos had you and your brother and your stepbrother was in the band as well.
That's right. Yeah. So I guess the origins of our band is maybe 1991, something around then, when our parents kind of split up and we were grouped together as brothers and stepbrothers. And I don't know, there was no thought of let's start. I can't even remember thinking, let's start a band. We were just always in a band for as long as I could remember. And we're just writing songs without really knowing anything about how to play the instruments that we had and just banging on stuff. And that was it. Just luckily, our parents had really good taste in music. My dad owned a record shop in the 70s and he had all the punk and new wave stuff, and we were just obsessed at a really young age. I think we had all those records, and then the Violent Femmes tape and the Jackson 5s tape and Nevermind and Nevermind the Bullocks in the car.
Wow. Well, so your dad owned a record shop. That's
a little
cool.
co-op. Yeah.
Wow. So he must have had a bunch of records around.
He didn't own it. He worked there.
Oh, he worked there. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he had some good records. Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. What was the first instrument you learned? Was it guitar? Or no, you played bass.
I play bass. I to be honest, I couldn't really sit still. My mom tried to get us to take some lessons, but I could never really sit still, and couldn't really pay attention to learning music. But it was a lot of just playing by ear and kind of teaching. You know, we had the ADD. I had the ADD bad.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, bass was the first thing I was like messing around with, and then guitar a little bit later. But yeah, and our oldest friend, Adam Reish, who's also produced this record and all the Glow stuff, lived like right around the corner in Bay Ridge. And we would go over to his house and make tapes on his karaoke machine. And he's a real musician. So he's probably been laughing the whole time, because I always had songs, but we didn't really have proper chords or anything. They had structures, choruses, verses, but they didn't always have the right notes.
Okay.
So
well, that's probably part of the whole thing,
we were a punk rock band. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool though. So you guys started like, was So So Glos kind of a thing that became or were
first
you,
it was
were you in a band prior to that?
Well, we were the Dinosaurs first.
Okay.
When we started.
Solid
I was
name.
T-Rex. Long before I knew of the other T-Rex. And then we were Stir Crazy, Urban Eyes, Every Other Weekend. We went.
That's a good name. Every other weekend. I like that one too.
Yeah. And then the So So Glos. That was like a little bit later, when we all kind of dropped out of school around the same time. I kind of convinced everyone to drop out of school, and we bought this big bus, this airport shuttle bus, and lived in it for about 5 years, touring around the country.
Wow.
And that was
did you drop out of high school, or was it
into the band?
Okay.
No, we all went to college, and then well, some of us dropped out of high school, but
was the band must have been going. I mean, if it to be like, you know what, let's take this thing super seriously, get a bus and travel the country.
Yeah, it was in the very early stages, and we kind of jumped the gun. I had this, like, we always had a lot of urgency, you know, even before there was any momentum. So it was just like very DIY ethos. Like, let's just go and book a tour. I think we used MySpace back then, and just like kind of basement shows and all of this stuff, which was amazing. It was just a really inspiring time. Then once we got back to New York, we were in the midst of recording our first album, and we set up we were like really inspired by touring, and we set up this spot called the Market Hotel, which was like, we want to do this in New York, this DIY thing. And like, it just, you know, a lot of kids came out, and it just felt immediately like a place where we belonged. And we just got really involved in that scene, and ended up starting a lot of venues, and just being active members in that community for a long time.
Wow. Oh, you guys started venues. How did that happen? Like, how did you even go about doing that? And just kind of had a space and put together like a little, you know, DIY punk shows? Yeah.
And then it just kept kind of snowballing. Just a lot of ambition and not a lot of foresight, and just like gung-ho-ness that so we started this spot called Market Hotel, which we named after one of our songs, and it was just a nut house, but it was fun. And then after that,
were you getting like, after that, how did that help? Were you able to like meet a bunch of bands, and then like, say a band from Connecticut came through, you were able to like jump on a show with them later? Or like, how did that venue kind of help progress your career?
Exactly. That was like, I mean, just from that year of touring, we met all these people, all these friends, and it was like, we really want to have a place in New York to pay it back. And so that was the kind of the origin of the Market Hotel. And then after that, we did a spot called Shea Stadium with Adam Reish, who I mentioned earlier, who was looking for a space. And he was like, you know, we were already heavily involved in the market. So we picked up a few tricks about just like how to throw shows and how to stay off the radar. And
for sure,
that was also another that became even more of a community spot. A lot of New Yorkers started it and lived there and helped run it. And I don't know. That's a whole other saga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that first record, or was it your second record, Tourism Terrorism, was that the one you guys scored like a best punk album award at like some independent music award?
Yeah, that was right after we got back from the first tour, and we were just like, we got hooked up with this label, Green Owl Records, which they told us was going to be the first environmentally sustainable record label. So we're like, all right, this is cool. This goes with what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we turned our bus into a veggie oil conversion thing.
Oh, really? I remember when bands were doing that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Was it like a diesel that you were able to?
Yeah,
like,
it was an old
grab like oil from different Chinese food restaurants or something.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Japanese restaurants, because they do like light tempura frying, was the best that we were told. So we'd end up doing that and
cool.
Did that for a few years.
Was it hard to figure out how to do that, or like what was the?
It definitely added like about 4 hours to every day, and it was
really
hard.
Trying to figure out where you can find the oil.
And we didn't have smartphones then, so it was like we had printed out MapQuest directions, and then we're like, once we get to a restaurant, we have to find our way back to the highway. It was a big mess, but it was fun. I'm really glad we did it. We tried.
That's cool. Yeah. What would you do? Just show up at a Japanese restaurant and say, hey, like, can we, take some oil from the back, or like, how did that even work?
Yeah, a little bit of that, a little bit of New York hustle charm, and we'd get the oil. We get the oil.
I like that. That's cool. So once
it's easier to get, used vegetable oil than like petroleum.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And don't they have to pay to like recycle it anyway? So you're almost doing them a favor.
Yeah. But sometimes you run into some shady stuff doing it. But,
okay.
We manage.
You guys got by. That's good.
Yeah. We got by.
And then, so you
put Glos is just a family, and it's kind of forever. The solo thing is, I had a bunch of songs that didn't really fit that voice. So, and the Glos were taking a little break recently. So, but the So So Glos are kind of like Wu-Tang, like they're always there,
I love that.
We're working on new stuff, and we're going to put some new stuff out soon.
That's cool. I know you guys have done huge things with the band. I mean, you did a tour with like Matt and Kim. I'm sure that was huge. You did a lot of stuff with Front Bottoms and Hold Steady, like some of my favorite bands.
Yeah. And
Parasitos.
We had some good times, man. We had some good times.
That's cool. That's really cool. What would you say? Like, I mean, what were some of the big highlight moments that you can think of?
Well,
I mean, I'm sure Letterman might have been a big one.
that was fun. We did it. That was surreal, quite surreal.
I can't even imagine. Like, how did you even get hooked up with that? Like, tell me the like process.
I mean, that was Letterman's last year, and we were just pitched, and he was still taking chances on new bands. I feel like a lot of that is lost nowadays, where it's just like, there's so many people that are, I don't know, the gatekeepers of culture keeps shifting so often that I don't even know what it is nowadays, but
right. It changed quite a bit. Yeah.
It was an amazing moment for us and all our friends. We were all watching it at Shea Stadium. We put it up on the TV, and everyone was holding hands. It was a big love fest, and it felt like just one band making it to that stage, to that level from our community was like, it felt like all of us made it in a way that night. So that was really special.
That is special. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so
cool.
I
don't see many scrappy punk rock bands on Letterman.
No, not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot, especially anymore. Sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, the gatekeepers keep switching hands. I mean, nowadays it's like you got to have like a viral TikTok dance or something to, you know what I mean? It's just such a different world nowadays. Instead of like the D.I.Y scene isn't is there, I'm sure, if you seek it out, but in like the mainstream eye, like not a lot of bands are coming up that way anymore. It's like you gotta somehow land some viral internet moment.
Yeah. Well, there's kind of a pattern that exists, I think, in culture where it's like an authentic thing sprouts up from the ground, and then someone sees it in some corporate way, and the second that it's brought to the attention, it's of a different kind of avenue, it is kind of squandered the intention that it originally was. See that forever. I think somewhere bubbling under the surface, there's a lot more coming, and then I don't know, TikTok or someone will sponsor it, and then it'll be gone. But then there'll be another thing sprouting out.
Yeah, it does come in those waves. It's interesting, and it's just like where we're at now. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, where it's like the idea of like selling out. I don't think you hear as much anymore. I think like everyone's striving to sell out instead of
everyone's
like
praying to get their song on a commercial. And
like back when when I was younger, I'm sure you have the same experience. Like, if a band got to the level of signing a major label contract or something like that, it was like, oh, I can't even like those guys anymore. I can't like Against Me anymore. They're like Left Fat Records, or what? I'm just trying to think of like examples.
Yeah, which is either for the band. It's like, I don't know.
It's just weird.
It's hard.
It's just
you root for your favorite artists, and then I think it's all
then
about.
When they achieve it, it's like you feel like you can't like them anymore.
Yeah, I think as long as your intentions are still pure, you can. That's why I'm really happy with how we came into the music. I don't even want to say business, because we never ever thought about it like that. It was just something intrinsic that we did as a therapeutic thing when we were kids, and it never really changed. But I think as long as you hold on to that element of it, you don't really have to worry about the other stuff, as long as you're making stuff that's a true representation of yourself and where you're at, you're doing the right thing as an artist. I can't really speak to any of the other stuff.
Sure. With this new project, was this, you said the band's kind of was on a break or whatever, we're working on new stuff now. Did that kind of come to a halt? Like, I'm sure a lot of your guys' life, I mean, essentially has been a record tour or putting together these DIY events, and that was all kind of stripped away from everybody, March 2020. How did that?
Very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how did that kind of reshift your thinking as an artist, and what's your plan?
The Alex Orange Drink project kind of started maybe in 2016 or 17, when the Glos were really burnt out from touring for over 10 years. And Shea Stadium, our headquarters and community space, had been shut down.
Oh, wow.
So Glos were like agreeing to kind of like, take a little time off, and I just had all these other songs, and I don't really know how to take a break from writing songs. I do it too much compulsively. So I was just like, all right, I'll put out a solo record. And I did, and it was fun. And now this is the second one that I'm doing now.
So did it kind of spark back up due to the, everything kind of shifting?
To answer your question originally, like, it was just such an isolating time. This year was a crazy, crazy thing. And the Alex Orange Drink project is just, for me, it's about diving deeper into like personal stuff. I have a lot of songs that are more heartbreak songs, and more songs that I was born with this very rare genetic disorder. So there's 2 tracks on the album about growing up with that and living with a chronic medical illness.
Yeah, I did read about that.
It's a voice that kind of doesn't really fit in with the Glos, because the Glos, I feel like, not intentionally, but always kind of have a voice of bringing up a lot of negative things in a positive way. That kind of the punk rock voice of hey, everything's fucked, but there's still hope, you know.
Sure.
And it felt good to just let go of that for a sec.
Like growing up with that illness, it's basically what you can't digest protein very well. Like, I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it at all.
Yeah, no, that's the short of it. It's I mean, there's tons of genetic disorders that are, I thought maybe, it would bring some awareness to some of the other ones, and eventually I'd like to, who knows where this project's going, but just kind of bring light to that. And so in short, I was born without an enzyme to break down protein. So I've been on a really restricted diet since birth. I was diagnosed at birth, newborn screening, which at the time when I was born, there was only maybe 12 states or something that tested mandatory newborn screening. New York was luckily one of them. And I've kind of got my way around all of these horrible, crazy side effects that can happen with something like that. So yeah, this project was just kind of a way to use a different voice and go into some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from what I've read about it, I mean, it must be hard to, you have to really, like you said, you had a restricted diet. It must be very hard to kind of like on the road and everything, like figure out places that you could eat. I mean, that must have been a, kind of a thing in
so
itself.
It's basically like a born vegan, but without any of the protein that someone like a vegan would look for, like tofu, grains, rice, anything, pea protein, nuts, all that stuff is out for me.
Wow.
And then I have this kind of shake, this protein shake that I've taken my whole life, which my slang name for it is orange drink.
Oh, so that's where the name came from.
Yeah, that's it. Alex Orange Drink. So I guess it is, you try to do something different, but it is kind of the same Glos voice of taking a negative and making it positive, and just turning it on its head and kind of embracing your thing that's holding you back, maybe. I don't know. I think it's a big thing in hip hop, but I don't see it much anymore in indie rock or rock and roll. So, that's the Orange Drink name, where it comes from.
Okay. So yeah, and then so that's fascinating. I mean, and that's great that you're able to. It's not great, but I mean, to be able to turn something like that you've been going through and trying to make more, people aware of it, bringing awareness to the situation, obviously.
Yeah.
And you said a couple songs on the record are directly written about the experiences you've had, throughout your life.
So the disorder is called Homocystinuria. Okay. And there's 2 tracks, Homocysteinoria Part 1, which is more somber track about just kind of, it's actually Part 1 is 1987 to 1995, and Part 2 is 1996 to 1999. So those are like just story songs about where I was at, and music being a salvation in the first part, and then in the second it's just kind of a middle school getting bullied kind of thing that I don't know, I think about it like a Biggie Smalls song or something like that.
Is there I did notice from your like track listing for the new record that you kind of moved that one a bit. Is it almost like the whole record telling a story in a way, like, because you have the Part 1 as track 2, and then it comes up in track 7 as the second part of the story? Like in between, are you are you kind of filling in the gap there, or is it just?
I mean, I do love records that kind of have a thematic arc, and as much as I try to not make a concept album every time, it just ends up coming out that way.
Okay.
So yeah, to me, there's a story, but I don't know if it really makes sense to anyone else. It's just kind of a long journey.
Okay.
And well, it definitely goes in somewhat chronological order because part one comes before part two, but
sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I love records that you can listen to from start to finish, and I think that's just kind of where that the second one's kind of more of a hardcore song, so it fits perfectly with like bringing up a little bit of energy before you give them a nice sweet ending, which I believe in.
Awesome. Yeah, there's just something to be said about listening to records in full. I've had this conversation with a few people where it's like, that's why I was asking, because I'm sure there's a reason why, you know, part one is track 2 and part 2 is track 7, and just the sonically how the record flows. I'm sure, I mean, you choose the track listing where it goes for a reason. I'm sure there's a lot of thought behind how to, you know, to label or put where you place songs 1 through 10.
Yeah, well, this album's called Everything Is Broken, Maybe That's Okay. So the first track, Central Booking, kind of starts, I get arrested for a petty crime, I'm in jail, blah, blah, blah. Maybe a little comment on the criminal justice system and how fucked up it is if you want to really read into it. But and then, you know, a retrospective kind of moment where I'm just like, okay, thinking track 2 is the history of, you know, the origin roots, and then tons of heartbreak to follow, and then but Everything Is Broken, Maybe That's Okay is a quote I took from one of our friends' bands called Bueno.
Okay.
On a track called Blown Out, which might be a reference to the So So Glos Blowout. I was
gonna say, don't you have a record called Blowout?
Yeah, I think they might have referenced us, and I took it back.
I like that. That's cool.
But I just love that phrase, Everything Is Broken, Maybe That's Okay, because that's kind of to go back to your question, like this album was created in this year of complete isolation, which and all of this different global reflection and this reckoning. And I think there's a lot of it in there, but a lot of it is just a very personal journey that ends up with hopefully something positive at the end. You know, all of the systems that you've known are broken down. You know, you got a broken criminal justice system, you have a broken political system, you have a broken heart, you have a broken anything else that I don't know. I'm blanking, but there's a lot of broken things, and maybe we don't want it to go back to normal. Maybe going back to normal isn't the place that we need to be. Maybe it's okay that things are broken open because you can see things a little bit more clearly when they're broken, you know?
That's kind of like concept. Yeah.
Kind of the thesis of the album in my mind.
Yeah. And was this all written? Obviously, when did you start writing the record? Like when you knew everything was going to be closed down for a while, or you said the band was kind of.
Well, I was feeling something weird that was happening at the beginning of 2020. I don't know if it was fortuitous, but it was just a weird energy shift.
Interesting.
In my personal life. And so I got like a bunch of friends and people in bands, and some of the So So Glos are even on this record. I mean, all of them are in one way. And I booked out the studio, that Adam's studio that we helped put together, and he's doing great stuff over there. And I just showed people songs on the spot, and we recorded pretty much the bulk of the album live in a room.
Wow.
And after I just showed people just right there in this kind of like party that I booked out for a few days. And then the quarantine hit, and months and months and months went by, and had a breakup and went back and finished the record took all those raw tracks and basically kept a lot of the basics and redid the vocals and redid a lot of acoustic guitars and put some sprinkles on top and just kind of did it, just me and Adam, really in complete isolation. And so I think the album kind of has a little bit of that. It's like a party, but it's also a party of one, you know?
Right. And with I mean, that's
all my friends are watching me just fall apart.
Party of one.
I'm falling apart, but all my friends are there with me on Zoom, looking
on
at
Zoom,
me, just watching me.
Everyone's on Zoom watching you.
But I'm alive.
That's good. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
With the record and it's coming out next month? About a week or two. As
of now, it's coming out in September.
Oh, yeah, it moved.
Pushed it back a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to my birthday.
Oh, really? When's your birthday? And my birthday's in September as well.
My birthday is September 13th.
Okay. Mine's the 23rd.
All right.
Right on. So cool. So it's back in September now. And stuff's opening up now a little bit. Is this something you're going to tour as Alex Orange Drink or play as Alex Orange Drink? Or are you going to,
I would like to.
With the slow goes. Okay.
Yeah, I would like to for sure. We'll see what happens. I'd love to put together a tour or support tour, something. Hopefully. I got a show on July 8th at the Mercury Lounge with one of my favorite songwriters, two of my favorite songwriters, Jeffrey Lewis, who's just amazing, and Joanna Sternberg, who are both just really great.
Have you done shows as...
And then the record release is going to be on the 15th of September.
Okay. And have you done shows as Alex Orange Drink yet, or is this all going to be new?
I have. So I did another album under Alexander Orange Drink, which is now very hard to find because I pulled it all off because I shortened my name and I had to totally restart. So Alexander Orange Drink is now dead, but that album will be back up someday soon.
Okay.
So I wiped the slate clean and started over with sort of a new band, new-ish, but a lot of the same people that were playing on the first record was a lot of just me and electronic stuff, but the band I put together for that is pretty much the same band.
Okay. But you scrubbed it? You scrubbed
it's
that
all
one
friends and family.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you for talking with me today. I appreciate it. I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. I love the 2 songs you have out so far.
Thank you.
And like I said, the record's coming out September 15th. And you got some shows. You're not quite sure if you're going to do more than that, or you hope to do the tour?
I think there'll be a tour.
Awesome.
Can't say yet, but
right.
Look out for it.
What about So So Glos? You said you guys have some new stuff in the works?
We have a lot of new songs in the works. We're just gearing up for the right time to put them out and putting some finishing touches on them, and should have a new record out this year, or some singles for sure.
Incredible. Can't wait. And thanks again so much for chatting with me, Alex. I appreciate it.
Of course.
The one question I have before I let you go is if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Sure. Yeah. I would say, be nice to people around you. Build a community of people who respect what you're doing and you respect, and just go with yourself, don't try to be something you're not, because it's gonna catch up to you. I would just write songs that come from a pure place, and then you figure out what to do with them after, because all the production, all of the promotion, that stuff is sometimes can be the soul sucking part of it, but it can also be fun if you figure out a way to do it that's true to yourself and true to your ideals and what you're trying to put out into the world. And don't give up. That's what I'd say. Don't give up.
I love
Even if
it.
feels like nobody's listening.
Very cool. Thank you so much,
Say it to
Alex.
yourself because it's good for your health. That's a Jeffrey Lewis quote.